Hello, everyone. Welcome to another week's episode of Reconnecting the Dots, brought to you by Abdurrahman. Once again, I want to empower and help you to become the best version of yourself through this podcast, and I hope it benefits you. So, take a listen to this week's episode and let me know what you think. Are you wondering how to get your life back on track? First, you need to ask yourself this question: what is control? And what does it look like to you? Does it mean having the proper balance between your personal and professional life? Or is it more having the skill to make quick decisions? Well, let's find out on this episode of Reconnecting the Dot with your host Abdurrahman. This is episode 18 of season 2 of Self Improvement. Once again, welcome to this week's episode. Today, we will be discussing and sharing, tips on how to get your life back on track when things are out of control. And on that note, I want to say thank you to all your life for keeping your eye to date. It is indeed a blessing. And I also appreciate you all for the critical feedbacks and comments. Really encouraging. Thank you. So let's dive into today's topic. How do we get back on track when everything seems out of control? One, do a live audit. What does doing a live audit means? So live audits are great ways to help you start paying attention to different phases of your life, such as family, career, relationships, emotional well-being, health, finances, spirituality, and creativity, and so on. And when it comes to getting your life back on track, it's best to also assess yourself critically to establish what exactly is going on and where you are at this present moment. Now, when things are beginning to feel out of control, right, it is always usually a sign, quote unquote, by the universe that you must check in with yourself in order to, track what exactly is going on. Sometimes when life takes over and the hustle and bustle sets in, we seem to neglect the significant and the essential areas that trigger us to sacrifice, that same health, and also overcompensate our time and energy on things that are not serving us. Remember, I also mentioned in some of my episodes that we must always train our minds to serve us. So there are some key elements to consider when auditing yourself, really. One, mental, physical, emotional, and spiritual. Because at the end of the day, it's all about being honest with yourself, really. Especially in that area which really needs, the most work. Your life audit will help you to regaining back that control and, most importantly, getting your life back on track. Number 2, regain your confidence. Confidence is the root of how we show up every day, and in the long term, showing up is more than getting up and going to work, right? It's about showing up with an intention for the day, correct? So when things are spiraling out of control, it's because of your lack of physical and mental clarity. Although confidence may seem an intangible element to comprehend, though, it's far more within the reach that you think. Think about what gives you confidence, really, and find things that correlate to that. If it's the feeling good about your body, then commit to fitness. If it's the knowledge, then, learn from those you admire or reach out to a mentor you would like to work with. Once you have control over how you show up every day, then you feel more control in other areas or phases of your life. Number 3, carry out a brain dump. Study shows that on average we have about 50,000 to 70,000 thoughts per day. It is impossible to actually keep track of every single thought that crosses our mind, and that's true. That's also true. There's still an uncontrollable, list that flows in our consciousness, which can get in the way when we want to know about, some things or how we actually really want to get back on track. Some of these thoughts spark inspirations or excitement, while others may trigger stress or feelings of being overwhelmed, which can actually get in the way of getting your life back on track. Eventually, a long list begins to appear, including things you do, daily chores, errands, people to see, project ideas, and so on. But brain dumping helps declutter the mind and is a chance for you to bring all those ideas and thoughts into paper in order to get back on track. By relieving some of that space, you now have room to focus. So it's all about being able to feed your focus and starve your distractions. So this is what brain dumping does for you. Brain dumping helps you to, feed that focus. All of those things that has probably overwhelmed all the thought process, in the mind, it helps you to do that. And the next time you're feeling overwhelmed or feel that things are spinning out of control, take 15 to 20 minutes of brain dumping. This exercise, trust me, will help you because it is supposed to it's supposed to help you have a structure instead of overwhelming yourself for nothing, right? So it helps you to have a structure, that way you're able to write all of the things that comes to mind, and afterward you can begin shuffling through your notes, and then you prioritize them into different categories. That's how you make things happen. That's how you get your life back on track. Number 4, organize the little things. Very important, really. When you feel like you don't have control over the major events in your life, always remember you have control over things that surround your space. Literally, this means having control over how, in fact, you clean your house, having control over how organized your drawers are. If you eat healthy, how much money do you spend? How often do you see family and friends, etc.? Those are some of the examples, right? So the little things add up and can help you feel like you are regaining control of your life and reduce stress along the way. Actually, there's actually no reason to really stress yourself. And this is one thing I do for myself. I always just tell myself what I do not have control over, I don't bother about it. I do not bother about it. So this is a great place for you to start and to learn about how to get your life back on track. Whenever you actually experience all of those things happening to you, organize those little things. It helps. It goes a long way. Number 5, very major. Define your purpose. I'm sure you all know what your purpose is. The truth is, God has actually given all of us a purpose. We all have a purpose. We all have what we want to do. We all have what we yearn for. So defining your purpose is very, very important. Actually, it's quite imperative to actually getting yourself back on track, right? So redefining or identifying your purpose is a route that must be planned within you. This, in fact, is the core of building your motivation, right? And diving into self-awareness can also help you identify or define your purpose as well. The self-aware, pay attention to yourself, pay attention to things around you. Very important. And that is the core of you, really. Even in the harsh weather, trees tend to stand firm, right? Despite how strong the wind or rain may be. Apart from, the nature, decree from above. Okay, when you define your purpose, you're building that strong base for yourself. When things seem to be spiraling out of control, refer back to your purpose and the joy that comes from it. Boom, let that root you as you try getting your life back on track. Always remember this. Always remember this, because success is already embedded in your purpose. Don't forget. Number 6, Assess your time management. Very, very important. I mean, of course, every one of us want to do things on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, on a quarterly basis. And of course, some of us, keep to our time. We probably have some certain goals and objectives, and some of us actually set timelines to actually make those things happen, right? I mean, it's very important for you to actually, assess your time management. And time management is a life skill, honestly, and one that takes even years to master. There's nothing wrong with wanting to engage in multiple projects, of course. But like everything else, it's about moderation and portion sizes. Assess your day, see how much of your time and energy can go into certain areas and activities of your life if you want to really, really get your life back on track. It's all about being intentional. Once you're intentional about the things you want to do, or about addressing some issues, that affect some of the areas of your life, this is what you need to do. For example, I had a friend who actually worked 2 jobs. As a matter of fact, he was so exhausted that all the time he found himself so stressed out, so overwhelmed, because he just didn't have time to himself. And I remember I always tell him, look, man, you need to strike a balance. You need to strike a balance. Because he only had 1 day off, and all of the rest of, the things he had been doing has been overwhelming him. It weighed heavily on his emotions, on his mental state of the mind, and in fact, eventually triggered to, his physical being as well. So because all of this is actually, goes, line in line. It's interwoven. You see? So it is very important that we would take cognizance of our time. What we do with our time is very, very important. And this is something we actually really need to take into consideration to actually getting our lives back on track. So number 7, actually, don't be too hard on yourself. I think I've also mentioned this in some of my previous episodes. Don't be too hard on yourself. There's actually no need of being too hard on yourself. No. When things feel like they are stacking against our favor, sometimes we are quick to put pressure on ourselves to get our life back on track immediately, which can negatively affect our mental health. Don't do that to yourself. Do not do that to yourself. Although there's no one solution to help you learn how to get your life back on track overnight, but you need to understand that it comes in phases, it comes in series of steps, which you actually takes towards that. Just for instance, dreams without goals remains just a dream. When you have dreams and do not have goals to amplify that dream, nothing happens. You're just there dreaming, right? So but when you have dreams and you have goals to that dream, so your goals is your action steps to accomplishing that dream, right? So routines are built through consistency and patience. Actions that consist of redoing, reinventing, reassessing. That means doing something again or differently. Know that things also takes time to process, and maybe time is what you need first. Bottom line, when life seems to be out of control, okay? And when your life seems to be out of control, just make sure you pay attention to yourself. Make sure you pay attention to everything going on around you. Make sure you always retrain your mind to serve you. It is very, very important. Always remember to retrain your mind to serve you. Always keep your focus on what or the direction or the path you want to walk, and starve your distraction. Because oftentimes when things start crumbling all at once, it's an indicator that we have lost the balance that centers our lives. That's just the truth. And that is why I called it circle of influence. Imagine you have a circle and an arrow is coming in between the circle. So it means that for that circle to be duly influenced, all of those different phases within the circle, which I have mentioned earlier, your mental, your relationship, your emotions, your spirituality, your creativity, and so on, all of those things needs to be balanced for you to have that balance of your life back on track. Let me leave you with this. Acquiring balance is a lifelong lesson and changes with major life events. And throughout time, you feel like everything is happening at once, but know that it's also another opportunity to rebuild and get back on track. And make sure you always have God first in all that you do. Thank you for listening, and thank you for being part of this week's episode of Reconnecting the Dot. I'll sure converse with you all next time. Bye-bye. You have just listened to the Reconnecting the Dot podcast with your host, Abdurrahman. Don't forget to subscribe to our podcast on iTunes or Google Play. And thank you for listening, and see you all next week. Bye-bye.